Iran attacked Israel with hundreds of drones and missiles and whatnot. On the line with us is Jamal Abdi, the president of the National Iranian American Council, NIAC Council, NIA Council.org is the website and also the Twitter handle. And J. Abdi, J-A-B-I is his Twitter handle. Jamal, welcome back to the program. It's been a while since we talked. I've got to say my biggest concern about this, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that Netanyahu is playing this thing like a fiddle. He attacked the Iranian embassy, which is sovereign territory, knowing that it was a violation of international law to do that. He absolutely broke international law. I believe he did that hoping for a response from Iran, which he now has. And I'm concerned that he's trying to drag America into a larger regional conflict just to distract basically America and the world from the mass death that he's caused in Gaza, and to keep himself out of jail, to hang on to his prime ministership. What say you?
Well, unfortunately, I strongly share that suspicion, and I'm not the only one. There are reports that even Joe Biden himself and the Biden administration believe that Netanyahu is trying to drag the United States into war. So this is not some fringe theory or some, anti-Israel talking point. The U.S. government itself is concerned that this is the case, and I think that does inform a lot of how they have navigated this issue. The degree of, I wouldn't say coordination per se, but the degree to which the U.S., I think, sort of ensured that this has been calibrated to not cross any so-called red lines that would then drag the U.S. into a regional war. I think it's very clear that's what Biden is trying to do. My concern is you see the writing on the wall, you see what Netanyahu has done so far, and the bear hug approach with the public diplomacy and sort of public alignment with Israel in hopes that in good faith, Netanyahu is going to do the right thing and is going to be respectful of U.S. interests has not worked so far. And so I'm very concerned that none of what has happened is outside of what the Netanyahu government planned for. The strikes they engaged in, highly provocative, a clear violation of international law, completely predictable, if not completely expected, that Iran would have to respond in some way. So we're still in this realm sort of Netanyahu's creation, where the ball is now completely in his court to decide what he wants to do. And Biden has said the U.S. is not going to partake in any offensive measures, which I think is positive. But Biden has not said, we're not going to, we're actually going to oppose that. We actually, want to protect the region from a regional war, protect U.S. interests, protect U.S. troops. And so Netanyahu, take the win and stand down, not just take the win and do whatever you want. And hopefully the guy operates in good faith. That's not what we've seen so far.
You are far more familiar with and much more a scholar of that region than am I. I'm curious your thoughts on a worst case scenario.
I think that the worst case scenario. Yeah. I think the worst case, we're talking about 30,000 people who have already been killed, 30,000 Palestinians, 13,000 children, a famine that is happening with the use of U.S. weapons. I can't think of, it's hard to think of even worse case scenarios than that. But the prospect, I think, of this becoming, Israel responds in a way that sort of all pretenses of this being what it is now, which is sort of these choreographed responses to kind of hew to the red lines and not cross those lines. If that comes off and there is a regional war and you've got Hezbollah going all in and you've got, Iranian linked actors in Iraq and Syria and Yemen going all in. I mean, we're talking about a regional conflagration.
Right.
And We've got U.S. troops in the region who are sitting ducks.
Yeah, for sure. How would the Arab nations in the Gulf respond to if for example Israel takes out an Iranian nuclear power plant, or the Iranian nuclear where it's believed that they're developing nuclear weapons? That it's kind of a logical place for Israel to strike. If they did that, and then Iran responded by a massive bombardment of Israel, or activating Hezbollah or whatever, and then boom, these two countries are actually in a shooting war. How are the Arab countries in that region going to respond?
They have tried to, I think, protect their own interests, which is what you would ask of a state. So they, most of the Arab states condemned the Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, and so I think signaled to Iran that they are not joining with Israel as part of this. I think they notably did not condemn the Iranian response. However, they may or may not have provided intelligence to Israel to try to mitigate the damage of that response. And I think what the Saudis and UAE and others really are doing is trying to navigate this without themselves getting sucked into this war, and really mindful of, there was a period of time sort of during the Trump administration and just before where I think the sense that the United States was going to fight a war for the Persian Gulf Arab states or was going to intervene, that was dispelled. It was dispelled partially from the nuclear deal, where you had the United States saying, no, we are going to engage Iran, and the states need to figure out how to share the region together, and we're not going to just play one side or the other. But then really with Trump's abandonment of the nuclear deal and some of the Iranian responses to that, the attacks on the Saudi Aramco facility, some of the ship seizures, and the fact that the United States did not get involved, I think signaled to the Arab states kind of a degree of, you have to take responsibility for this because the United States is not going to bail you out. And so I think that's what they're doing, trying to avoid getting sucked into one direction or the other. Now, if this plays out, there are many different pathways it could take. And I think the other, worst case scenario that I wanted to mention is just that, Iran is on the cusp of having the ability to break out and develop nuclear weapons. And I think that there are a fair number, maybe even an increasing number of, voices inside of Iran who think that, that it would be a wise decision, that this whole situation exposes the need for a deterrence, and what better deterrence than a nuclear weapon. So I think there are a lot of ways Iran could potentially take this, and the effect that would have on the rest of the region remains to be seen, how the Arab states would respond to Iran breaking out and deciding it wants to go nuclear.
I get it. We're talking with Jamal Abdi, the president of the National Iranian American Council, NIAC. Jamal, we're going to hit a hard break here in about a minute and a half that I can't control. So just FYI, I'm wondering how, what are the domestic politics of this for Iran?
Well, I think that the government of Iran is beleaguered, sort of facing the greatest legitimacy crisis it has had in the existence of the Islamic Republic. They just had an election with record low turnout. And I think that, I don't want to generalize, but I think that for ordinary Iranians, there's really this, there's a fear of war, but there's also a sense of the economy is in such peril. Everyday life is just increasingly difficult. And there's not a desire for a big war to break out. And there's not I think there are some who think there will not be a rally around the flag effect because of the disenchantment with the government. But I think some of the signs that we're seeing is that, in fact, an all-out war probably would actually enable this beleaguered government to really reconsolidate power. And already we're seeing...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, we're seeing a renewed crackdown on the hijab, the enforcement of the hijab, which, folks who are going to Iran right now are saying, wow, most women are not wearing hijab anymore. The state claims this is illegal, but is not enforcing it. And now they're returning to this. And I think returning to some of these basically using the external crisis to crack down internally and sort of ensure that they've consolidated power. So I really think that is the direction things
we've got really weak mullahs and we've got really weak Netanyahu, both of them with astonishingly low popularity ratings. And if either country was, arguably fully democratic, somebody else would be running both of them, it seems. These are just going to be, could be just kind of last-ditch efforts to hang on to power on both sides, right?
I think that's a really astute analysis.
Yeah, okay. Jamal Abdi, the president of the National Iranian American Council. You can check it out, niacouncil.org on the internet. Jamal, thank you so much for dropping by. It's always great talking with you. I always learn something. Thank you.
My pleasure, Thom.
Thank you so much.